Hi, hello, welcome to August. So, the making of this episode was extremely interesting for me. I have been sitting on these notes for some time now. I was waiting for some kind of epiphany, some kind of divine download to finally come down from the heavens and bestow me with the sense of conviction that I felt I needed in order to actually record the episode. And of course, that epiphany never came. And that feels really relevant to share because of the energies of August. I also recorded a longer version of this episode that was more fun, somewhat wild, very flowy and meandering. And because I am the queen of edits, I decided to spare you all from that version. So here we are. The theme for the month is Game On. And when I hear that phrase, there was kind of this feeling of let's go. And there was also video game music, which was really cute. And I will unpack what that means. So, first, I want to start with my usual spiel about the themes of the month, free from the astrology. And then for all of my beautiful astro nerds, we will get deeper and go into the astrology. We will excavate. Essentially, there's all kinds of energies available for taking action, for moving in the direction that you want. That being said, it's not going to be a straight line. Some of you will have to do a spiral. Some of you will bump into some things. You will lose your very expensive car by crashing it into a brick wall. Some of you will decide that you want to walk instead of driving a car. Some of you will decide you want to take the subway. So that's not to say that moving forward and taking action is always going to be easy or it's going to be smooth or it's going to be straightforward. But yes, if you want to move forward, keep listening. A few themes come up in terms of just what happens when we are in momentum, when we take action. The first theme is sticky timelines showing up as objections, as fear of failures, as I don't know what I want. So I'm going to go through this systematically. The first question I hear a lot is, what if I don't know what I want? I want you to look at what you don't want. I want you to look at your reality and be honest with yourself and start identifying what feels bad, what feels off, what feels like something that is not for you to do, even if it's not inherently wrong. What feels like you are playing a role in a play that you kind of hate. What feels like you playing the drums for a song you kind of hate. And I want you to start eliminating. Some of this will be painful, but some of this will be really fun. Some of this you will not even expect that you had the courage to leave. Maybe you've been doing this for years and then you decided one day you wake up and you just don't want to do it anymore, and then you're fine. Nobody died. And you might then be left with this feeling of what even is reality. There is a sense of pushing back against your assumptions of reality and what you think people want, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit. So, the second question that I often hear is, what if I know what I want, but I think I will fail? Then fail. Just do it. Set out to do it badly and fail. Get it out of your system and then see where that takes you. Failure is has been marketed as this big, hairy, terrible thing, but really failure is just feedback from reality. Failure is reality showing you what you actually need to get from point A to point B, and what you haven't gotten. You haven't gotten the skills. You haven't gotten the resources. You haven't gotten the relationships, right? Sometimes, in order to really move forward in the direction we want to, we are missing a personnel. Like literally, there's someone that needs to be on your team. There's someone that needs to be in your life telling you the things you need to hear in order for you to be able to be the kind of person who goes into what you need. So failure is not a problem. Failure just makes you much, much better at succeeding. So rip the band aid and fail more. Third objection is, what if what I want isn't what people around me want to do? This is for all of you beautiful people pleasers, recovering people pleasers, kind hearted, sensitive empaths, etc., etc., etc. Right? This is a great chance to heal your codependent patterns. There are three possible scenarios when you start doing what you want and you suspect that people around you don't want you to do it. Scenario number one, you are correct. People around you don't want this. Guess what? Disagreement will not kill you. Disappointment will not kill you. And it won't kill the people around you either. Although some people will make you think that. Some people will go on this whole manipulative trip trying to convince you that you just ruined their lives. Here is what I like to remind myself if I'm in these situations. You are not that important. Nobody likes to hear that, but it's the truth. You are not that important. When people get really triggered by you, it's usually because something you do, something you say, some way of being that you are in this world gets tangled up in their own stuff. You are essentially triggering them. And for the most part, it's okay. Sometimes you trigger people because you yourself are doing something really toxic, and if that's really the case, I want you to self-reflect. But for most of you, that's not the case. You are just living your life, you are just being you, and something about what you do is reminding these people of the things that they believe they cannot do. And so you doing the thing is setting an alarm in their heads that says, danger, danger. That's not how reality is supposed to work. They've been imprisoning themselves in a cage where they think they can't get out when actually all they needed to do was push the door. And so it is really kind and compassionate to let them work through it. So, a caveat, or maybe like a little trick, a little magic trick I will give for you here is ask yourself, if people get very triggered by what it is that you want and where you're going, ask yourself, if I do something that's wrong, will I be okay with apologizing? 2, if I hurt someone, am I willing to be accountable for that? Like, actually hurt someone. Like, I don't just mean emotionally hurting someone, right? Even though that is often important, but we know as adults, we are also responsible for our own emotions. But what I'm really asking you here is, are you really harming someone? Like truly harming someone? And if you are harming someone, will you be willing to do what it takes to repair the relationship and to not shame yourself over making that honest mistake? And number 3, the question I want you to ask is there a part of me that actually wants to inflict harm on this person? If the answer to number 1 and number 2 is yes, and the answer to number 3 is no, then you should go ahead, do it. Scenario number 2, you are wrong. You think that the people around you want you to do or to be something, but actually they don't. It's just, I don't know, something about how you were raised, the things that you've been hearing since you were born, your friend group, whatever, have all these stories and these weird rules about how to be human. And you may discover that the people around you now either don't care about it anymore or they never cared in the first place. You discover people are okay with it. And then you just get what you want and you liberate yourself from your fallacious assumptions about what people want. Great. Great. Scenario number three, some people will be okay, others won't be okay. So if you find yourself in these situations, just remember some relationships are meant to drift away. And sometimes this is how we care for one another. This is an important skill to learn in the art of caring for other people. That sometimes you being in each other's lives is not good for both of you. And that's okay. That doesn't mean that you will not return or find your way back to each other again. Sometimes when you drift apart and you're really meant to, with some people, you're meant to find each other again. And usually when that happens, the relationship is so much better. And for some others, your time is up. There's also nothing wrong with that. You can move on. And if you find yourself being surrounded by people who are really supportive of you moving into this new direction, and then some other people are not, I recommend you make it really easy on yourself. Just receive the benefits and the support from the people who are supporting you, and trust that the people who won't support you and really want the best for you will eventually come around. And if they don't, then you will find other people in your life. Another question that comes up as objections is, what if I change my mind later? The answer is, then change your mind. You are allowed to pivot. It's not a big deal. You'll just figure it out. Some I don't even want to say mistakes. Some moves are expensive. Some moves will take you into a certain direction. You pay a lot of money, or you pay with your time, or you pay with your energy, and you ultimately learn that that direction is not for you, or it's not the right timing to go into that direction. Okay, you will figure it out. You will find out how to unwind from that. Not a problem. So, before I leave this theme, I want to come back to the idea of sticky timelines. It is very important to know that all of these objectives, scratch that, all of these objectives and objections are very different. All of these objections are questions that you will ask yourself when you are in a threshold. So it it is normal. There's nothing wrong for you when you're asking these questions. You're not doing anything wrong. You are simply standing between two rooms and you're not entirely sure if you want to leave one room in the mansion of reality and enter the next room. Doubt is a sign that you are growing. Doubt is a sign that you are evolving. You don't need to let it stop you. You can also use doubt as a confirmation. You can let it be fuel. You can let it propel you forward. Sticky timelines is normal. This is just the physics of reality. Inertia is just a part of life. So carry on if you know that you are meant to. The second theme is your body may be moving at a slower pace. This is so important to understand. For my fellow astro nerds, When we talk about the astrology, this will make even more sense for you. So remember your phone. When the operating system of your phone is updating, what does it do? It has to turn off, it has to be charged. It cannot do business as usual. You can't play your video games on your phones. You can't check your email when it's doing the thing, right? I have an iPhone and this Apple logo comes up and then I have to wait for things to update. Your body is the same. If you are shifting timelines and you're slower than usual, don't punish yourself. It is so tempting to punish yourself, to be like, whoa, I'm such a loser for not being able to move as fast as I was moving before. And so much of what catapults people back into old timelines is getting tempted into being stuck in punishing yourself, in thinking that you have failed, in thinking that wherever you're moving to is not right. And people go back into the store and return all their items, right? They're like, no, 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 I can't have this. I can't have all this new stuff, right? When you're in a new reality, the priority is to get the lay of the land. I'm going to give you a metaphor here. Imagine you are moving to a new neighborhood, and in your old neighborhood there was this favorite ice cream shop that you know. And basically you take your car out of the driveway. Is that what it's called? I don't have a house, so I don't know. But you take your car out of your house, of your garage, and then you turn left to go to the ice cream shop that you absolutely love. And you do this like twice a day if you're like me and you are an ice cream addict. And you move to this new neighborhood, and in this new neighborhood, you have to turn right to go to the new ice cream shop. Equally good, different flavors, but you love it. You love it. And every time you take your car out of the garage, you want to turn left because you're so used to turning left. Many times you will turn left and you will get lost and you will be like, oh my gosh, I am such an idiot. Why am I turning left? You may need to make that mistake a few times before getting to the ice cream shop without making a mistake. There's nothing wrong with you. Your brain is just adjusting. You are just learning how to be in this new neighborhood. Many of you are moving into a timeline. Many of you are moving into a room within a mansion of reality that is more resonant with you. In this more resonant reality, there will be less friction and this will be confusing. It's like growing up in a household where you're constantly questioned about everything. You're questioned about why did you wear that jacket today? Why didn't you do your homework a little bit sooner? Why did you do your hair like that? And then as an adult, you get into this relationship where your partner thinks you're the best thing ever and you don't have to explain anything. This can feel absolutely bonkers. This can feel so jarring. You can end up picking fights with your partner. And then once you pick a fight, your partner is like, What is going on? I think you're just really amazing. Why are you fighting me for thinking that you're amazing?" So try not to do this. If you are finding yourself in this new reality where there is less friction, maybe for a very, very long time, you've been wanting more spaciousness, and then you make a move and everybody drops off like flies, and now you have all this time to yourself. It's easy to think, oh my goodness, something is wrong because you're so used to being overworked. You're so used to everybody asking you for stuff all the time. And now you're just sitting there and crickets. There's nothing wrong. You just ask for this timeline of more spaciousness, and your body needs to adjust. Many people think that them getting kind of worked up about it, them getting maybe even like having more energy, right? This is actually verbatim what happened to me. I, a few months ago, really wanted more spaciousness. And then I got more spaciousness. And that means that I have more energy in the day, which means that my sleep was weirder. I used to be more tired. I used to just fall asleep. And then suddenly now I can't sleep. And I'm like, what is wrong? What is wrong? And then it took me months to realize, oh, you finally just got the space you needed. You finally became comfortable. You became friends with this vacuum. And you don't have to do as much anymore. And you don't have to perform. You get to just be yourself. You get to be comfortable. So then the body needs less sleep. It wakes up at 7 and it's like, we're ready to go. And then here I am in my mind going like, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong. Why am I not sleeping 9 hours a day? It's because I'm not tired, right? So notice where you're resisting things being easy, flowing, and fun. It's so crazy. I feel like so many of us got this weird messaging that being an adult should not be fun. Like, how many of you were told by caretakers, you can't just have fun all the time? Can't you? Why not? What is the point of being alive? What is the point of being in this reality if you can't just experience having fun a lot of the times? Some of you may need to go into nervous system work to let your body know, let your nervous system know it's okay. It's okay that you're not running for your lives all the time. That maybe things being a little more spacious or people being nicer to you is okay. Theme number 3. External validation is losing its juice. Many of you are raised to believe you need external validation. This month, some of you will get it. You will get the raise, you will get the relationship, you will get the followers count, your post will go viral, you'll receive an inheritance from a random uncle you didn't even know who left you money. Whatever it is that your ego has always wanted. And then when it hits your reality, you realize that it doesn't really nourish you. And this, for some people, depending on how dramatic you are, nothing wrong with being dramatic, can really plunge you into the depths of existential crisis. What I want you to remember is eating a lot is not the same as nourishing your body. We'll come back to this point later, but I'm going to repeat it. Eating a lot is not the same as nourishing your body. You are learning that more than anything, you are a unique being and you have unique needs. And this is more important than hoarding a bunch of stuff and eating all the time. And hopefully it's clear to you that I'm not just talking here about eating as in putting food into your mouth. I'm talking about eating spiritually. I'm talking about eating emotionally. We are raised in a consumeristic culture and we think that we need to always be eating. We always need to be consuming. If we are not consuming, we're going to die. This is not true. We are detoxing from the loop-de-doop. The loop-de-doop. Is that a thing? I don't know. I like the sound of that. We are detoxing from the circular thinking that in order for us to get the thing we want, we have to turn left and then turn right and then make a little circle and then do the monkey dance and then eventually through doing all this extra stuff finally get what we want. We are finally realizing that this has been a lie. This is completely inefficient. Energetically, you can just go straight into getting what you want. It's more important to be honest about what you want and then to do the thing that maximizes your chance of getting it, rather than doing the strange thing that many of us do in order to manipulate reality into giving you what you want. Reality doesn't need you to manipulate it. Reality wants you to be honest. So, this is again a jarring experience for a lot of us because we have been like, like those kids who have never been to the buffet and then they go to the buffet and then they were told you can take anything you want. And then they go crazy. They literally put everything into their tiny little plate and they eat everything. And because they were like, what? I only have to pay once and then I can eat everything. This is my wildest dream. And then they eat everything. You can tell that this was me as a child. And then they went home and then they got sick. And then they started learning that, okay, next time we go to the buffet, we're going we're going to design a balanced meal. We're not going to eat everything. We're going to eat ice cream last because it's not great for our body to just start with a ton of ice cream and then not have space for actual food. In other words, if you want a hug from your partner, go up to your partner and tell them, hey, can I get a hug? Thank you. Don't do all this crazy stuff. Don't prepare insane candlelit dinner for them unless that's really what you want. If you just want a hug, just go up to them and say, hey, give me a hug. Don't do this thing where you manipulate people into giving you what you want without telling them that that's what you want by doing all this extra nice stuff for them. It's really, really a waste of time. Everybody's time. It's a waste of everybody's energy. You think you are being nice, but actually you're just being unclear. If you are an entrepreneur and you want money, and then you do all this weird thing where you're like, oh, my Instagram post has to go viral. I have to do this crazy nurture sequence. No, you don't. Just figure out what it is that your people want and then tell them that you are now offering that service and watch them come to you and buy from you. Because is it so crazy that you are a skilled person who has something to offer that other people will want to buy? It's really not that weird if you think about it, right? It's logical. We just live in a world where we have been conditioned to think that in order to get what we want, it has to be hard and it has to be this weird loop-de-doop. If you are an artist and you want your mom's approval, just call your mom and ask her to tell you that she likes your art. Just be like, hey, mom, I really want your validation. Can you tell me that my art is beautiful? I'm sure, well, actually, I don't know your mom, but I'm sure in my case, if that's what I really needed, I'm sure my mom will be like, yes, I've always thought you had a beautiful voice. I've always thought you were a talented musician. You don't need to make 15 albums just to prove to your mom that your music is valid and deserves to exist. Figuring out what you want doesn't have to be passive. So many people, when I use the word figure out what you want, what comes up in my mind is this picture, this motion pictures of someone who is sitting there and doing a gazillion journaling prompt just to understand what it is that they want. You don't have to do that. You can also figure out what you want by trying things that you think you want and then seeing what happens. If you get the result that you want, but actually you don't like it, then just don't do it again. If you don't get the result that you want, then you can ask yourself, what can I do differently next time? And maybe you will like the process, the iterative process of figuring it out. You will tend to find the answer faster if you stop beating around the bush. Stop beating around the bush. I hope I said that right. I don't know. My brain glitched there for a second. Going back to external validation, remember, most of you, what you really want is an internal experience. You want to feel loved? Start with loving yourself. Doesn't have to be 100%. And then stop doing things that make you feel unloved. Start noticing who loves you already. And that way you will start tipping the ratio of feeling loved to be more than feeling unloved. That's how you get to feel loved. If you want to feel successful, start celebrating yourself every day. Even the little things. I took a shower today. Great job. Great job. Stop doing things that you don't like, because most likely they will not give you success either. And if you really do want to feel successful, trust me, doing the things that gives you a result you think you want, but makes you feel really bad about yourself, is not what successful feels like. If that's your experience, go back to the drawing board, figure it out again. So make it simple and pay attention to what actually nourishes you. Okay, that's the end of my Sermon on the Mount. For those of you who are not interested in the astrology, I will see you next month. So, astro nerds, let's dive in. We start the month on August 1st with Venus in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune, both retrograde in Aries. First transit of the month to me is always really important because it sets the tone. It gives us this picture of how is the rest of the month going to unfold, right? It gives us a starting point. This transit is crunchy. Squares are martial in nature, and Cancer and Aries are the two signs that are featured in this particular squares. Cancer is a cardinal water sign. Cancer is associated with the goddess, with the womb, with the mother. Cancer has this embracing quality. If you think about the womb, it literally knits and it protects, right? Aries is about birth. Aries is about bursting out from winter into spring. Aries is about this enormous energy that's needed to break through the ice in order to become a plant that can have leaves that are jutting out outside, right? So Aries energy wants to push out. Aries energy is the baby being birthed. Cancer energy is holding this tiny being that doesn't know how to survive on its own inside of your own being, right? These are very different energy. Venus is also a very different energy than Saturn and Neptune. Venus is about pleasure. Venus is about deliciousness. Venus is about balance. Saturn is about finding structure. And Neptune likes to confuse things. Neptune likes to dissolve boundaries between things. So Venus in Cancer squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries is about the tension between creating what feels safe for us, creating what feels nurturing for both us and the people around us, and finding sovereignty. It's about the difference between comfort and adventure. An additional note here, Mars is not in Libra, which is the other cardinal sign, right? So Mars will not be squaring by sign, but Mars is in very late degree of Virgo at the start of the month. So Mars will also be squaring Venus and opposite Saturn and Neptune, which effectively creates a T square, right? T squares are challenging, T squares are sticky. And Venus and Mars are both very visceral planets, so this may be a felt experience for many of you. Okay, next up is on August 6th, we have Mars entering Libra. Mars is in detriment in Libra, opposite Mars's home in Aries. Mars in Libra is concerned about aesthetics. Mars in Libra likes things to look nice. Mars in Libra wants reciprocity. When Mars in Libra gives something, it's like, are you also giving something back to me? Right? It's uh, it's really concern about balance and beauty and harmony, and something that I have been talking about for years whenever Libra comes up is that harmony is not the same as sameness, right? If you think about harmony as a musical concept, harmony is about a bunch of different instruments playing a lot of different notes, creating something together. Harmony is found actually in difference. Otherwise, you will just have sameness everywhere. So this is important. Tension is part of harmony. And Mars in Libra is not shy about that. Mars in Libra will approach things with gusto, with a little bit of recklessness, with bravado, alone if necessary. Mars in Libra is about creating conflicts in order to find harmony, in order to find deeper understanding. A lot of people like to keep the peace, but actually keeping the peace is kind of like a fake. It can be a really fake way to just be comfortable. And Mars in Libra likes more than that, right? Prefers relationships, realities that are more than just surface level comfort. That being said, it's important for Mars and Libra to remember context is very important. You don't want to pick a fight. You don't want to, in the name of honesty, in the name of full honesty, you don't want to pick a fight with someone you just met 5 minutes ago at a party, right? Don't do that. Don't be a weird person. Just really ask yourself if you are feeling invited into conflict. Ask yourself, is this the right relationship to be asking for the thing that I want? Or if not, you also have the option to just walk on by. On August 8th to August 10th, we have Mars and Libra trining Uranus in Gemini, opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and trining Pluto. This is very exciting. We have a grand air trine because we have Libra, Gemini, and Aquarius. And air element is about how we think. It's about how we conceptualize. It's about how we converse. It's about how we exchange ideas. This is a great transit for exciting intellectual conversations. And it's also a great transit for visioning. If there have been things that you have been trying to figure out for a while, you don't know how to approach this intellectually, you might find that this transit gives opportunities for eureka moments. There are epiphanies coming through. There are new insights, streams of insights, and maybe the problem, I don't know if I like the word problem, but the potential here is to go a little too far into the direction of conspiracy theory. So some discernment is always needed, especially when when Mars is involved, and then you also have outer planets, Uranus, Gemini, or Uranus in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries. The outer planets are rather uncontrollable forces. The outer planets are wild. The outer planets don't exist within the boundaries of normal. Any definition of normal is really not in the vocabulary of outer planets. And so this is a transit for kind of thinking outside the box, but watch when you're falling into crazy thinking land. And I can't tell you what's crazy for you because it might be different than what's crazy for me. So know yourself. An example is the other day I was talking with a friend about goal setting and my tricky relationship with goal setting. And we started having this really interesting conversation about what even are goals, which is very Gemini, right? It has to do with defining. Gemini wants to define. Gemini wants to understand what are the different ways we can conceptualize this. And then we were talking about how do goals fit in the greater ecosystem of work, which is Aquarian. And we also talked about the history of goals, and the Industrial Revolution. And these are all very big concepts, very big phenomenon that now has led into very directly into how we make goals, right? Because goal setting is not just an abstract concept. Goal setting is something that we do in our day-to-day reality. And it's important to talk about where they come from, because where they come from determine how we are today, what is our default today, what is our default programming, and gives us more of a context of why we are the way we are and whether we would like to continue going in that direction. And then we also talked about how do we communicate our goals with each other, which is very Libra, right? It's this question of, is it important, or how do we figure out the incentives that are necessary for people to have in order to achieve the same external goal, because different people from different vantage points have different perspectives. So the reason why I'm giving that example is because that feels very much like grand air trine for me, right? It's this process of asking yourself, even just to go back to what we were saying during the sermon part about what you want, you can ask yourself, like, what even are wants, right? If you like to use the word desire, what do you mean when you say desire? What is desire? Get really specific, get Gemini about it, right? And then how do desires fit in the greater ecosystem of your life? Get philosophizing, that's the Aquarius question, right? And then how do we make sure that we make space for our desires without abandoning other desires, which are Libra questions. So there's also Aries energy in this situationship with Mars, Uranus, and Pluto, right? There's Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And this is the additional awareness of without knowing who we are and what we want, the mind will just be a philosophical discussion. So, really contextualize, ground all of these questions of whatever it is that you want to wax philosophically, really ground it in who you are and what you want. This is important, right? This is really important because I have been noticing actually the past few months, things are getting even wilder on social media, where everybody is just having these really heated discussions when it's very clear that the they are lacking background context to actually have a real intellectual discussion about things. So basically it just becomes this, I don't mean this um to be condescending, but it ends up becoming like a kindergarten for adults. First of all, just let me be very clear. I love children. I think children are great. Children are often better than adults. But it is like this very unclear and unhelpful use of energy. And I don't like wasting things, including energy. So it might be really important if you are finding yourself getting very worked up about something to question your assumptions. I think that many of us, because we are people who are interested in healing, people who are interested in deepening our relationship with ourselves and with others, and many of us are doing this really courageous thing of giving ourselves what we always wanted but never received as children. We are very sensitive to these things, right? But we also run the risk of treating reality or treating the whole world as if they have the same unmet needs as us, which is really, really untrue, right? It's really, really untrue. Just because you didn't get certain kinds of validations from the people who raised you doesn't mean that other people also did not get it. And you might find yourself in this really weird hall of mirrors if you are not careful. So ask questions. Ask questions. Ask questions to yourself, ask questions to others. This to me is one of the most potent invitations for Uranus and Gemini, which is ask questions. Get to a point where you feel energetically you are on the same page with people before accusing people of something or running wild with assumptions. And also, it's okay if you are finding yourself making assumptions, making up stories in your head. You are allowed to, especially if you are in a relational container with the other person, to tell them like, hey, this is what this makes me think of. Are we aligned here, or what's actually going on? Asking for clarification is very healthy. Okay, let me move on. Full moon in Aquarius also happens around this time, right? So this is kind of a really packed time, this period between August 8th to August 10th is really packed because there's also a full moon in Aquarius, 16 degrees Aquarius. The sun is in Leo, ruled by itself. The moon is ruled by Saturn in Aries, opposed by Mars, which is the ruler of Aries. So this is Saturn, fallen in Aries, in the land of um, of Mars, with Mars in Libra, right? It's not really a great, it's not really a preferable position for either Saturn or Mars. It feels like a very hard full moon for me. Okay, very is hyperbolic. It feels like it can potentially be a hard full moon. There are themes here around social abandonment, like this a theme that I've been noticing a lot recently coming up in my work and also in my relationships, non-work relationships, is fear of leaving the tribe, be that on a philosophical or ideological level, right? We all have agreed we're going to do XYZ, but I actually don't feel like it now. Do I abandon myself or do I keep going with, or do I abandon my tribe, right? It can feel like an either or, and it can feel really scary and brings up a lot of things. Changing relationships with people or groups brings a lot of anxieties, and I think it will kind of come to a crescendo as we approach this full moon in Aquarius. Evolving affinities, right? So there's something here. It's interesting. Leo and Aquarius are both fixed signs. And just because you are at the top of the mountain doesn't mean that the landscape around you is not changing, right? Just because you are in the height of summer, you are the king of the jungle with the rest of your tribe, doesn't mean that things are not always changing at the same time. And so, with fixed signs or planets in fixed signs, the fear can be around what will happen when things are finally shifting, when things are finally changing, right? And I feel like I've said this a lot in the first part, but I would say this full moon feels to me like it's more about feeling the feelings rather than okay, I take that back. This full moon is about feeling the feelings, but also about moving forward, especially because of that Saturn in Aries, Mars in Libra. Moving forward with consciousness, moving forward without abandoning yourself, moving forward without feeling like you have to move a million miles per hour, moving forward without being stuck in your own mental concept of what it means to move forward, right? It is about impacting some change, creating some new realities, and being courageous about it, even if it doesn't immediately feel good. And the reason why I'm saying that is because we have the Saturn in Aries and Mars in Libra business, right? Aries and Libra are cardinal signs, so it does point to starting new things, and with Saturn being fallen in Aries, starting something new might be really embarrassing. It might be really cringe. And likely you are not going to die of that embarrassment or that cringe, right? Mars in Libra means that you might really trigger the people who you care about. This might, you're moving in this direction might bring up hard conversations. And again, there will be big feelings, but perhaps no lasting damages. Finally, on August 11th, we have Saturn in Aries sextiling Uranus in Gemini. In and of itself, Uranus sextiling Saturn feels like levity and humor to me. Saturn, again, doesn't love being in Aries. Saturn likes to think and plan and structure. Aries wants to move. It's not comfortable for Saturn to be running a sprint. Saturn would much prefer going on a very long walk rather than getting sweaty inside Saturn's robe. And Uranus brings more fun and electricity and surprises. It kind of feels like a bit of a balm to me. Given all the Mars stuff, however, it will be clouded by the loud, nagging quality of Mars. So, something that maybe you can play with around this time, this is again still talking about the time period of August 8th to August 11ish, is asking yourself, where can I find a little bit of levity as a balm for my reality, as all these big things, fear of abandonment, changes are happening, right? Okay, so the same day as Saturn sextiling Uranus, we have Mercury stationing direct. Thank goodness. Mercury doesn't leave its shadow period until Virgo season, until August 25th, actually. But remember, Mercury moves very slowly as it's coming out of retrograde. So heed all the usual Mercury retrograde advice. Double check your work. Make sure if you are signing a contract to read it and expect delays, technological glitches, all that stuff. You already know this. But also because Mercury is finishing up a retrograde period in Leo, really check the energy behind someone's words. Don't take things at face value. Ask clarifying questions. August 12th, we have Venus and Jupiter conjoining in Cancer. This is a really beautiful transit, a super potent resource for the month. I would say this is like the sweetest transit of this month, right? And this will bring a big balm to all the kind of gnarlier stuff that can come up with Mars opposing Pluto, um, and doing all this stuff. Wait, Mars is not opposing Pluto. What am I talking about? Mars opposing Saturn. That's what I wanted to say, right? So Venus and Jupiter conjoining in Cancer, again, really beautiful transit. Jupiter, as we know, is exalted in Cancer. And this is where I was getting that whole thing about consuming is not the same as nourishing thing that I was speaking to earlier. So, an additional point I would like to make here is that with Jupiter in Cancer, wherever we've been growing the right things, with the proper nutrition, with the proper dosage, we will see good stuff coming up. The fruits are going to fruit, the flowers are going to blossom. With the with the stuff that if we are growing the wrong stuff, or if we are growing our stuff with the wrong nutrition, with too much or too little, we will see the leakage. The leakage may be a lot. Do not be alarmed. This is something that I've seen people kind of struggling with, actually, with Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer gets this reputation as being this really comforting, nurturing, embracing kind of mothery quality, right? And I think there's some truth in that, but that's not the entirety of it all. I was just reflecting on how Jupiter is associated with luck, but luck is neutral luck is neutral. There's good luck, there's bad luck. And what can feel like good luck right now can be not so good in the future. What can feel like bad luck right now can be the thing you need to kind of wake up and get your stuff in order, get your life in order. And in you getting your life in order, later down the road, you will be really happy that you did the thing, right? So I would say with Jupiter in Cancer, it's more important to focus on tending, on caring, and on healing. And I would say also, I would add celebrating, right? If there are areas in your life that are finally bearing fruit after you've been hoping for certain fruits for so long, don't just gloss over it. Really give yourself time and space and encouragement and be like, yeah, that was amazing. I'm really glad I did that, right? And then if you see a leakage, just recognize that you don't need to blame yourself. You don't need to shame yourself. Just know that you made a choice in the past, and turns out that choice wasn't the best choice. That's okay. You still have time. You will figure this out, right? So again, tending, caring, and healing. Um, There's also more inner resource available with Jupiter in Cancer. There's more optimism, there's more hope, there's more creative solutions. This will come in different forms for different people. The last time Jupiter was in Cancer, I know a bunch of people met their partner that they ended up being with for a very long time, right? And or they make changes in their career that eventually really became something amazing for them. So these are the kinds of things that are possible with Jupiter in Cancer, right? But that doesn't mean, I think, whenever we have cardinal signs, it's important to not forget that some work is still going to be necessary. Cardinal signs don't just give things for free. Cardinal signs is about starting, right? And sometimes starting can look like being in, tens of thousands of credit card debt and then starting to get out of it, right? Starting to commit to, having better communications with people around you, to heal your codependent patterns, to not be a passive aggressive person anymore, right? These are so I'm going to start bringing in Venus in Cancer here, because Venus in Cancer is about remembering that caring is an art. Caring is an art, right? Venus likes to balance, Venus likes to alchemize, Venus likes to align things with values that are important. Venus also shows us where things are rotten, because even if externally they might be the right thing to do, but if they are not coming from the right motivation, ultimately some changes need to be made, some tweaks need to be made. And Venus coming together with Jupiter will make all the Jupiterian tending, caring, healing process a little bit sweeter. Jupiter also, conversely, will help Venus shine a little brighter. Jupiter expands and magnifies, Jupiter opens up pathways for deep abundance, and Venus opens up pathways for reciprocity. This is a really great time to remember that you create the reality that you want. And just because you tried a little trick, maybe change your mindset, and then it doesn't work right away, this is not a time to be discouraged by that. This is a time to get curious and to be like, okay, I'm going to continue pushing forward in the direction that I want to, and I'll see how I can resource myself in that process. There's a misunderstanding that if you are a caring person, you need to care about everything and everyone. Cancer is not about caring for everyone and everything. In fact, Cancer or any kind of transit in Cancer will very quickly show you places where you are, again, falsely believing that you can take care of everything. Cancer asks us to get granular. The womb is a limited space, right? The whole world cannot be contained in one human womb. And the womb can do its job. It can protect because it is limited. Same thing with the shell of a crab, right? It shields the tender meat because it is hard and it doesn't let everything in. There's an inherent exclusivity to Cancer energy, so pick and choose wisely. And remember that picking and choosing is a necessary process. You might find that practical ways that this can come up. You might find that you have to abandon certain aspects of things that you like to do in order to really focus on the things that really matter to you. You might need to stop consuming some things in order to do the things that nourish you simply because you do not have unlimited energy and you live in a body. So that's the kind of stuff that is important to remember with Venus and Jupiter in Cancer because, yes, it is a resource, but in order to really access that resource, you have to remember that you can't spread yourself thin. August 14th and August 18th, Mars in Libra will sextile Mercury in Leo. Now, this is one of those transits that feel very subtle to me, except that it's happening twice. So, Mars will do a little sextile with Mercury on the 14th, and then because they're moving kind of in lockstep with one another, 4 days later, it will have another sextile. So, this is really sweet when I feel into this. It feels like a sexy, juicy, creative, interesting transit. Sextiles are usually subtle, but because this happens twice, it may be a little bit louder than usual. And this is a great day for conversations. This is a great day for making sales. This is a great day for artistic endeavors, for flirting, for socializing. You get the gist. On the 15th, Venus in Cancer will trine the nodes, and this feels like a very healing transit for me. The nodes have to do with our lived experience. This is a really great time to get body work to ensure that energy can flow properly through your physical vessel. This is a great time to really address the things in your physical reality that are not conducive to things flowing in the ways that you want them to. Can also be a really great time to clean the house, now that I'm thinking about it. It's also a great time to apologize and to repair relationships. Don't forget that relationships are also vessels, right? Energies move within relationships. And when we are holding a grudge against someone, or we haven't fully acknowledged the things that someone did wrong, or we haven't called someone in to be held accountable, it can be an energetic leak. So notice places where you are leaking energy. This is a great time to repair that. On the 22nd, the week after that, so we have a pretty, I would say that week, right, between the 14th to the 22nd is feeling, there's like lightness and ease for me there. So this is again going back to the Sermon on the Mount. This is why I think this is a great time. This month is a great time, not without its challenges, but still a really great time to do the things that you want to do because there's energy for it, and there's kind of like this permission slip from the universe of like, yeah, go for it. And in going for it, you may be, your attention may be called to, this is where I need to fill up this hole a little bit, right? This is where I need to fix things a little bit. This is where I need to say sorry to a person, etc. On the 22nd, the sun is moving into Virgo. This sun is going to be ruled by Mercury in Leo. So even though there's still some Leo vibes here, it will feel very different than the sun in Leo. Sun in Leo likes to bask. It likes to move at its own tempo, right? It likes to really just be in that full illumination vibe. Sun in Virgo is dictated by Mercury. So it likes movements, it wants creative solutions, problem solving, dissecting situations analytically. It wants to, when I think about Sun in Virgo, it's like I see like teeth sinking in, like Virgo is like, give me the data. Give me something to really work with so we can come up with a tangible conclusion, right? We don't just want a wishy-washy, you know, uh, like motivational quote mug, right? Sun in Virgo is like, give me the data so I can create some pivot tables in my Excel and I can actually tell you how much you need to save by next month if you want to make your financial goal at the end of the year. That might be really not a great analogy for some of you, but I think you know what I mean. On the 24th, Sun in Virgo squares Uranus in Gemini. And although squares are hard aspects, both signs are ruled by Mercury. I would say Virgo and Gemini to me feel like the least conflicting, the least tension filled out of all the squares in the zodiac. There's something very, it's like librarian and rapper. You know, the two are actually not so different, right? Or like, hmm, yeah, I like that. Librarian and rapper, right? Like they wear different clothes, they act differently, but they can appreciate one another. Like if they spend a little bit more than just 5 minutes in the same room, they can see like, oh yeah, I really like the way that your mind is moving. It's different than mine, but there's something really cool about it that I find super fascinating, right? And because it's a square between Sun and Uranus, Uranus brings in surprising data for Sun in Virgo to consider. And at first, the Sun in Virgo might be a little hesitant or might be a little bit taken aback by this data. It might slow down that creative problem solving endeavor, and Sun in Virgo might get a little grouchy for a second, but it is ultimately for the better, right? It's like being told, like if you're doing your finances with your partner and you have been crunching the numbers and you feel like, okay, we are doing great. And then suddenly your partner said, oh, I forgot there was this hospital bill that came in, right? And then you are like, oh no, that really messed up my whole calculation. But Uranus in Gemini is going to bring information that Sun in Virgo needs anyways. So it's not like you will do better without it, right? It's actually better that you have the information. You will come to a better conclusion. It just might take you a little bit more time, a little bit more effort, a little bit more energy to actually do the thing and maybe rerun some of your calculations, but it's fine. It's fine. So we are approaching the end of the month now. Between the 25th and 27th, we have Venus entering Leo and then trining Saturn and Neptune in Aries, sextiling Uranus in Gemini, opposing Pluto in Aquarius. Now, this is interesting because it mimics Mars's movement during the second week of the month, right? So it's almost like a reprise a little bit, except this time there's more fire energy. This is a spicier version. There's more action, less talking, right? Before we had Mars and Libra that really likes to talk, that really likes to craft, spicy yet beautifully worded argument. Venus and Leo is more about like, here I am, right? Venus and Leo to me, I don't know if her Venus is in Leo, but when I think about Venus and Leo, I think about Whitney Houston, actually. I should check actually. Is Whitney a Venus in Leo? I'm not going to do that right now, but I think you get the vibe that I'm trying to the picture that I'm trying to paint here, right? There's confidence. There's Whitney Houston at her best is it's just so beautiful. You see this really rare combination of heart, confidence, charisma, and also skill, right? Like this is someone who knows what they're doing. So there's more action, less talking. There's more uh, creative action. There's more creative doing. I think there's more creative showing, a little bit less philosophy. Venus trining Saturn and Neptune actually feels very supportive to me. And this is kind of in contrast to the square that was happening at the start of the month, right? This one feels like a loosening of that square. Venus and Saturn have sympathetic relationship. If you think about Venus as the ruler of the sign of Taurus and Saturn as the ruler of the sign of Capricorn, right? Naturally, in their unfiltered essence, Venus and Saturn likes one another, right? Venus and Saturn is they're there's like this reciprocity, like they bring out the best in one another. Venus sweetens Saturn's salty and slightly bitter temperament, and Saturn stabilizes Venus, gives Venus the sense of solidity and security that can help Venus really grow something, right? Because Venus likes to unite things, Venus likes to bring things together. So Saturn gives Venus this foundation from which to build. And of course, with the addition of Neptune, Neptune is always a little bit unpredictable. It's like hazy, cloudy, maybe a little shady, but also it feels to me very mystical when combined with Venus and Saturn. There's something here that feels, this trine between Venus and Leo and Saturn and Neptune in Aries is like going to the temple of action, going to the temple of doing, right? You are no longer just talking and talking and talking about it. You are no longer just dreaming about it. You are actually taking action as part of your devotional practice. And that is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. This is a great time for doing candle magic. If that's the direction you want to go to, I would say set really, really clear and grounding intention, because there are all these other powerful energy around it, right? Venus in Leo sextiling Uranus in Gemini emboldens Venus to really shine. Whatever surprises Uranus brings, Venus can alchemize that into beauty, into affection, into depth, into growth. And the opposition with Pluto is certainly challenging, but also Pluto is the god of the underworld, where the riches grow. So the experience may not feel totally uh, comfortable, right? But Venus loves the riches. So not the same, but earlier this year, I had Pluto making an exact conjunction with my natal Venus. And it was not a comfortable transit. There was some weird stuff happening, but also ultimately it brought a lot of abundance, I will say. Abundance. And it doesn't pay off right away, but there is something that gets seeded there. So Venus in Leo opposing Pluto in Aquarius is obviously slightly different than when Pluto was making an exact conjunction on my Venus. But something I learned from that transit is that this is not all bad. This is not all oppressive. Sometimes Pluto can get a bad rep for, I don't know, there's this whole like mythology, right? Hades abducting Persephone, but Venus is a grown woman. Venus is a grown goddess. Venus knows what she wants and where she's going. And with this opposition with Pluto, it actually kind of feels like something might come to light that will be a little beneficial on either now or later down the road. We end the month on the 28th with Neptune in Aries sextiling Uranus in Gemini. This is a strange transit. When I felt into this is like unexpected confusion and misunderstandings that could lead to surprising outcomes. This is a loud and potentially brash transit. In any case, it's not very subtle. It's not a feel-good transit. So manage your expectations, be kind to yourself. If around this time it doesn't feel you don't feel great, or I don't know, the vibes are off, or you're kind of having really strange days. Again, sextiles tend to be friendly, or the sextiles tend to be more subtle, but to me it's kind of like I don't know. There's something about this particular transit that kind of feels a little fishy, like Neptune sextiling Uranus. It's like they're kind of up to no good a little bit, is my feeling here, you know? Um, that's not to scare you, but I will say that with this transit, I would highly recommend being aware of any rushing patterns and noticing false sense of urgency, especially with Mars still being in Libra. This is not a good time to just kind of jump into things or do things super impulsively, especially if you know you can't take it back. Don't make big moves without considering it. I mean, that's always true all the time, but I feel like, especially with this kind of energy swirling around, really give yourself time to develop. Give reality time to give you more data before saying yes too quickly. And again, I kind of want to bring in, and especially because towards the end of the month here, we have the Venus and Leo situation opposing Pluto. Be really mindful of power dynamics and places where you automatically would say yes to things just because there is kind of an inherent power differential that makes it uncomfortable to say no. Because with this kind of transit, if you people please and you say yes too quickly and then feel like you can't back out, it can feel, it can end up, you can end up feeling really stuck. You can end up feeling really mm, ick about it. So just be sure that when you're making a decision, that is really a decision that's driven by, Venus in Leo is an invitation to really center the heart. Is this decision coming from my heart? And if this decision is coming from your heart, then really commit to it. Even if it's not well received, even if it doesn't yield the result that you exactly want in the external reality, if you stay true to your heart, there is kind of a natural protection there because you are really listening to the part of you will, that is, that has your best interest in mind, that will lead you into the place you need to go, even if the pathway to getting there is kind of weird. So, yeah, just be really mindful of that. Be mindful of relationships where you don't feel okay expressing your full truth, because those are tricky relationships. And if you can give it a little time, or maybe even like avoid it a little if you can't be direct. And better yet, if you can be direct, be direct. Okay, I have been talking for a while. I think that is it from me. Final thing I will say is I have a couple spots. If any of you would like to work with me in my longer term coaching and or mentorship container, I have been working with one new client and it's been a dream. If you're listening to this, I'm so excited for our work together. So, if any of you would like to work with me deeply, that is the best place to do so. I guess what I'll say about it is there are kind of two tracks that don't have to be mutually exclusive, but some people really come for mostly coaching, meaning using astrology, using human design, using energy work. We will work with your current life and shifting how you relate to your life so that you can live more of the reality you want to live. You can experience more internally and externally the things that you want to experience rather than the things that you don't. And then the mentorship part is more for people who are serious about increasing their level of proficiency and fluency with astrology or with energy work. Those are the two things I feel most comfortable uh, mentoring people around. I also have human design skills, but I don't teach human design. I don't. educate people on human design. So that's just my little caveat. If you want a human design mentor specifically, you might be well served with another practitioner who's more, who has this really robust, like kind of teachery level understanding of human design. But I love using human design for coaching people, for guiding people through whatever process they're working through. Okay, that is it. Thank you so much. I hope you have a beautiful, beautiful August. And for those of you who are in the middle of summer, I hope you enjoy it. For those of you who are in the middle of winter, I hope you enjoy it. For those of you who are in tropical weather, I hope you enjoy it. Okay, thank you. I love all of you. Bye.